Hi, Dana here. I've been reading some of the passages from the lectionary again. You'll find that I'll reference that for a while. But one of the passages is from 1 Peter 4, 7 through 11 this week. And it's really interesting because, you know, in the early church, there was a lot of persecution, there was a lot of suffering, there was a lot of difficulty that people were experiencing, that people in the church were experiencing. There was deep persecution. And as North American Christians, we have not known persecution as white Christians in North America. I would say it's fairly easy for us to say that we have not experienced persecution. And so it boggles my mind that people who were experiencing great terror, like being thrown to lions and being killed for sport in the sports arenas, who were being wiped out by the empire and the nation, and who were being persecuted by other religious groups, that they continued to persevere in their faith, that they continued to trust a God that was there, but they didn't necessarily know. And they had these questions all the time, which I love, because some of our questions that we have now echo some of them. Even though we're not experiencing persecution, we're experiencing some form of suffering or some pressure that maybe we hadn't experienced before. And so we are asking questions too, where is God in the midst of this? And Revelation is this really interesting book that is super confusing and can be totally misused, but is basically a story of how even when we cannot see it, even when evil is prevailing, has the upper hand, when it seems like God is nowhere to be found, actually, God is there. Jesus is sitting on the throne as a slain lamb, gathering people together and caring for the world and promising and being true to the promise that one day this will end. And this gave them strength to persevere and to continue on because they recognized that God was in their midst. Maybe not giving them the victory that they hoped for or the victory that they expected, but God was there in their midst. And so even though they had these questions, they continued to persevere. And so 1 Peter 4, verses 7 through 11 says this: "The end of all things was near," because it really felt that way for them. And it feels that way sometimes for us as we look around, maybe less so now than it did at the beginning of our lockdowns. But it says, "The end of all things is near. Therefore, be alert and of sober mind so that you may pray. Above all, love each other deeply because love covers a multitude of sins. Offer hospitality to one another without grumbling. Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. If anyone speaks, they should do so as one who speaks the very words of God. If anyone serves, they should do so with the strength God provides, so that in all things God may be praised through Jesus Christ. To him be the glory and power forever and ever. Amen." There are plenty of calls like this to persevere in kindness, in goodness, in patience, in forbearance, in continuing to follow the way of Christ in the world. And so I know that we are not experiencing persecution. I know that our suffering is minimal in comparison with so many other nations around the world right now. I know that the church has a lot of freedom to thrive and survive here that many churches in other areas of the world do not have and may never have had. But this call to persevere is still one for us. A call to persevere even in the midst of suffering, in the midst of struggle, a call to continue to do good, to continue to be kind, to continue to trust in the Lord, whatever that means for you right now. If that's just one more step, because that's all you have light for, then that's what that means. And so I encourage you to continue to persevere, continue to be patient, continue to do good. The Lord is near. His Spirit is among us.